By the end of this video, I want to convince you to book a trip to York because it is just such a stunning place. And if you love historical things and bookshops and witchy stuff, then you're gonna absolutely love it. I always like to jump in at the end of vlogs because I like to talk about some tips and advice that I would give if you're thinking about planning a trip to the places that I go to in videos, because there are definitely things that I'm glad I considered. And I have my notebook with all my notes, and that's why I'm holding this, because I was using it to write with. So I'm not trying to be majestic or be rude pointing. I like waving things around. So I'm gonna split the video up into two sections. So part one is gonna be about my itinerary and the things that we did and give you recommendations and tips as I go through those things. And then the second part of the video is just gonna be the bookshops that I recommend visiting. And I'm actually gonna put a screenshot of the map and all the different places we visited, so you can take that itinerary yourself and use it for your own trip. And I'll talk about each of those bookshops individually in more detail, because there are different things that each of those bookshops have that I want to recommend and talk about. So thought it'd be helpful. So this trip was actually for my birthday, all thanks to my best friend. Last year, she started a little trend where for each other's birthdays, we booked a little trip away somewhere to places that we've always wanted to go to. They tend to be bookish places. So last year we did Edinburgh for my birthday. Then for her birthday, we went to Fae Club's Fantasy Ball over in Bristol. And then this year we went to York. And then for her birthday, we're gonna be going somewhere as well, and I'm super excited. So that video will be out next month. But it's just really lovely to go on these little trips together and make memories, because we just don't know what to buy each other anymore. And York was such an incredible trip. So a massive thank you to my bestie, because it's just been so much fun. So we went to York for 2 days. We went on the Monday morning and then we came back on the Tuesday evening. And in all honesty, that was a really decent amount of time for all the stuff that we had planned on our itinerary. It's actually quite impressive how much we got done in just those 2 days. I would say though that if you're planning on visiting the museums, you might want to do 3 days just so you can really take your time and have a good look around. We didn't actually go inside any of the museums because you do have to actually pay to go in, which we weren't actually aware of, because a lot of the museums we've been to, you don't have to pay. So we just assumed they were going to be free. So that's just something you might want to take into consideration. We did the 2 days and we did a lot. We did go during half-term time and it was quite busy, but that was more for Shambles Street more than just York in general. I'll go into more detail in just a minute about Shambles Street, but it does get incredibly busy and it is also quite narrow. There's a lot of popular shops there. So if you do want to take your time to visit every shop, it might be better to go outside of term time. You can definitely still go during half term. It's just there are quite long queues, especially when we went there were anyway. So just something to take into consideration. And obviously if you can go outside of term time, then I'm sure it's even better, to be honest with you. So day one for us was pretty much just exploring and popping into a couple of bookshops that we walked past on the way to the main city from the train station, because we couldn't check into the hotel till about 3 p.m. I think it was. So we just explored what we could during that time. We did the bookshops on the train station side of the river, which I will go into more detail in the second part of the video. But then we pretty much just headed to Shambles Street just to see what it was like. And it was very busy, but we did manage to pop into a couple of shops. We went into the Society of Alchemists, which is a really lovely shop, and we also went into the Christmas shop as well, because Christmas is like our favorite time of the year, and you know, why not? I did want to pick up a little ghosty from the shop, however the queue was exceptionally long. But you will notice that there are kind of other independent stores that do very similar things. So I found this one shop that had a bunch of ghosts in there and I did pick one up. So, you know, there are definitely other shops that you can go to and kind of chains. So there's more than enough to explore. We went and visited the York Minster, which was an absolutely stunning building. It's absolutely breathtaking. Do you ever just look at some buildings and you're just like, how did we build these buildings? That could just be us, I have no idea. And then we just had a little bit of a walk around again, visited a couple of random shops that we wanted to visit and grabbed some food. And then it was pretty much time to check into the hotel anyway. So the hotel that we stayed in, I believe, was the Indigo Hotel. I 100% recommend this hotel if it's within your budget. Of course, you know, there are so many hotels around, but it's an absolutely stunning building. It also has a restaurant in there as well where you can have breakfast and food, and the staff are lovely. I actually have a really funny story to tell you about one of the staff members, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But I couldn't get over the room. The interior was just so so nice. And I thought it was so sweet that they also left a happy birthday message that was requested to be put on the mirror, and they actually did it. I thought that was so sweet. We actually had food in the hotel before we headed out, and it was so good. And I was quite shocked at how affordable it was. I don't know why, I always have this thing in my head where hotel food is going to be like really expensive, because obviously, especially with the location, I don't know why I thought it was going to be like £30 per person, but actually it was £30 for the two of us, and that was 2 main courses, a really big side of garlic bread, and 2 drinks. So for £15 each, I thought that was so good. And it was a really big portion as well, and it was a build your own pasta. You could choose the sauce, the toppings, the cheese, everything. It was delish. And then it was time for the cinema, which was hands down one of the most incredible experiences cinema-wise that I've genuinely ever had. So going back to the really funny story about the staff member at the reception, when we were checking in, she basically asked us if we had any plans for the evening, and we told her we were going to go and watch Wuthering Heights, and she was super jealous because she really wanted to go, and she asked us if we could let her know what the movie was like, but unfortunately she wasn't going to be there by the time we got back because we went quite late, and she wasn't going to be there in the morning when we checked out, so we were going to miss her. So we decided to leave a note, and it was a really funny note about our thoughts and feelings on the film. But we also left a contact. We left our Instagrams and basically said, you know, feel free to message us if you do ever see the movie. And she did actually get back to us the next day, and she said that it was a really funny note. She said that she absolutely loved us. She was just so lovely, but I just thought it was a little highlight of the trip. If you ever get the opportunity to go to an everyman cinema, I would 1000% recommend it, especially if you go to York, because there's one already there. But what shocked me the most is that it wasn't that much more expensive than just a normal cinema, but you get sofas and like really comfortable big armchairs with pillows, and you can order food and drinks and desserts to your chair. What is not to love? So it was £15 each, but I went to the Cineworld the other day and it was £13. So for £2 more, you get sofas with pillows, and it's a great experience. Like, you don't get to go to a sofa cinema too often, at least I don't anyway. You do obviously have to pay extra for the food and the drinks and stuff, but it's just great, and it's really comfortable. The atmosphere is amazing. It's one of those buildings where you walk in and you think, this is so bougie, I feel like I shouldn't be here. But no, it's a stunning place, and it's such a great experience. I definitely recommend it, especially if you're going to York. And then after the film, we pretty much just zonked in bed because we were so tired from all of the walking around all day. And then day 2 for us then was pretty much doing all the rest of the bookshops and also doing all of the sightseeing as well. Started off with the most amazing breakfast. It was like an all-you-can-eat buffet with hot food, a full English breakfast. You could order stuff from the menu, so we ordered pancakes as well. The best Nutella pancakes I have ever had. So good. And they had fruit and loads of juices. It was just such an incredible breakfast. And then we basically hit the bookshops. There's one shop actually that I do want to recommend that isn't a bookshop specifically, but it does sell book related things in there. And it's a really lovely independent craft shop called Give the Dog a Bone. This was actually pretty much on the way back from our hotel to the main part of the city as well. So we had a look inside and it was so incredible. They have great bookish merch, pin badges, tote bags, little do your own library stuff as well. They have beautiful ornaments and mugs. They also have a ton of anime stuff and like homemade craft stuff as well. But then upstairs they also had loads of gaming merch and nerdy stuff. It's such a lovely shop, and they're super friendly in there as well. Really lovely people. So definitely recommend popping into that shop if you've got the time. And then we did all the bookshops, and like I said, I'll do a full itinerary of that in just a minute for you. It worked out really well because where the last 2 bookshops were that we wanted to visit, we then were right next to the art gallery, but unfortunately it's shut on Tuesdays. And that's twice now we've wanted to do something and then that thing's been closed. So you would have thought by now we would have learned our lesson and checked the times, but nope. So yeah, the art gallery is shut on Tuesdays, just to let you know. So yeah, we were a little bit gutted that we couldn't go in, but when we turned around to start heading back, we noticed that it was actually the starting point to an open top bus tour. And we have never done one before, and we thought, you know what? Let's just do it. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing that as well. It is a little bit spenny, I will admit, but it does come with a fair few benefits. So it's £17 for an adult ticket, but that lasts 24 hours. And the great thing about that ticket as well is, even though the tour is an hour long and you get a little map which shows you all of the stops, if you want to get off at those stops at any point, you can. You don't have to stay on and then get off and then the tour's done. You can get on and off as much as you like. So say if you get to the museums, you can jump off, go and visit the museums, and then jump back on later in the day. And another fabulous thing as well is that the tickets actually give you discounts to a lot of the museums and sightseeing locations. Really, really good tour. It is incredibly informative as well. The tour guides are really lovely. They ask if they're speaking too fast or too slow, or if you want more information, less information. I think some of the buses have like an automatic audio on, but we had an actual tour guide, and it's so impressive at how much they remember. I know it's their job, and over time they probably just retain all that information, but still pretty impressive. But it's incredible. You will learn so much. One of my favorite facts that we learn actually goes back to the Everyman Cinema. So the Odeon logo on the outside of the building is actually one of the only original Odeon logos that still exist. And I don't know why, I just thought that was really impressive, because the fact that they've maintained it that well since like the earlier, I think it was like 1900s or something like that. I'll have to cross check that fact, but I just thought that was really, really cool. And then going past all of like the cemeteries, you learn about famous people in the graveyards. They'll point out the haunted places as well, if that's stuff that you're into. Going past the racetracks, they talk about the executions that happened there and all the history behind that. Just super informative. So yeah, it is spenny, but you get a lot of benefits out of it, and it was just a really fun thing to experience. So not something that I've done a lot at all, in fact ever, so I was really happy that we decided to jump on and do it in the end. But then because we got a ticket, once we finished the tour, we decided to go and find the Roman baths. This was so funny. So I was trying to type into Google the Roman baths, and it kept coming up with a pub. If you already know, you know, but for those of that don't, I genuinely thought that a pub was just named Roman Baths and it was taking me to a pub. But I was like, no, I want to go and see the Roman baths. Like, where is it? And I was so worried that I just was going to turn up at a pub and be like, well, this is just a pub, it's not a Roman bath. But no, the pub is the place you need to go to. You can trust me. So when you get there, there'll be a set of stairs that literally just take you straight down, and right at the bottom of the stairs is the tour guide. And I believe it was about £4.50, but with the ticket that you get from the open bus tour, you'll get the £1 off, so you get a little bit of a discount, but every little helps. It's not a very long tour at all, but it is so damn cool. I don't think it's very often you get to say that you're stood in the same place as the Romans were. Pretty impressive. You will only be in there for about 5 minutes, so it's not very long, like I said, but it is so worth it. And I also found it really impressive that there was like a chicken foot imprinted in the concrete. It's just an experience at the end of the day, and it's so worth it. And then by the time we did that, we pretty much only had a couple of hours before we then needed to head home and catch the train. So we decided to do the medieval wall walk. I think when we Googled it, it said it takes about 2 hours to do the whole thing. I don't know whether that's true or not, because we didn't do the whole walk. We only did the sections kind of taking us back on the way to the train station. And then along the way, we also stopped off at the museum gardens as well, and just kind of had a little bit of a wander around and just kind of relaxed for the rest of the day. But I really recommend doing the medieval wall walk, because, oh god, that's a mouthful trying to say it all in one go. Trying to say that a few times in a row. There's some really gorgeous scenic parts on the route as well, and it's just really cool again to say you're walking in the same spot that people did all those years ago. Like, it's just, I just find that stuff really, really fascinating. And then just before heading back to the train stations, we stopped off in one of the coffee shops. Oh my goodness, I highly recommend it. I think they're called Sophie's Cafe or something like that. Such adorable little shops. Can be quite full, but if you can get a seat, it's so worth it. Right on the river, really beautiful windows you can sit at as well if they're available, and they do such good Kinder hot chocolates. Oh my goodness. I was eyeing them up every time we were walking past them, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go and get one, I'm so sorry. And then we pretty much headed home. Safe to say, we did not want to go home. So going into the bookshop itinerary now. So I'm gonna put on the screen a picture of the list of the bookshops and then the actual map as well, so you can kind of see the general route that we took. Feel free to take this as your own itinerary. But to be honest with you, everything is quite close by, and you'll find that at some point a lot of the bookshops are very, very close to one another, so it's really easy to kind of go around them all. So on the train station side, you have Lucius Books. This was actually closed when we had a look. I believe it's because it was moving. I don't know if it has already moved. It looks like it's still in the same location on Google Maps, so you might just want to double check that one when you get to the shop. But then not too far down there is Oxfam, which is the secondhand bookshop. There is also another Oxfam in the city centre as well, so there's a couple of those you can go to. And then there was also the Amnesty Bookshop as well, and this was a really lovely shop. Lots of secondhand books, records, CDs, and there's also a little children's cubby corner as well, where you can kind of take your kids to read books, and got really good selection in there, just really lovely people. So yeah, really nice place. And then over the other side of the river is where most of the other bookshops are. So you have the Waterstones. We did have a little peek inside, but to be honest, Waterstones is kind of very similar everywhere, but we always like to have a look at the layout and the buildings because there are some really gorgeous Waterstones. But then not too far from Waterstones is the new bookshop that has recently opened called the Poetry Pharmacy. This wasn't there, unfortunately, when we were there, but it's definitely a place we would visit if we were to go again. Wanted to throw that in there just to let you know that it's there now. Then we went to Criminally Good Books. This was a fantastic crime and thriller shop. It had great selection. It's got first editions, it had some signed in there, they've got sprayed edges in there too, and there's also an upstairs. They've even got like a little chair you can sit in and read. It's a really aesthetically pleasing to look at shop as well, and they genuinely have the biggest Agatha Christie collection I have genuinely ever seen in my life. So if you like Agatha Christie, hop in that one. And there is the Portal Bookshop, and it is one of the smaller shops. It's only one floor, but they have a fantastic range of books. They've also got a great range of LGBT recommendations in there, and something that I found in there that I was so fascinated by, and I hope that more bookshops do this if they're not doing it already, but they do also have dyslexia friendly books as well. I basically saw this giant Song of Achilles book, but then when I saw it was a dyslexia friendly edition, I thought that was so wholesome. If there is a way that we can make reading more accessible for people, I'm so behind that. And this was the first time I've ever seen a dyslexia friendly book in a shop, so if we can encourage bookshops to do this if they're not doing it already, that is such a great idea. But I had a look through it and I just thought it was so interesting to see what it was actually like and how it was formatted, and I just thought that was really nice, so definitely go and check out that shop. Now this shop isn't necessarily a full-on bookshop, but it's still got their own storybooks in there, and I really want to recommend it because it's the most whimsical shop I genuinely think I've ever been in, or probably even exists, and that was Rookscroft. It is this gorgeous kind of whimsical shop, and I believe looking into it, they've kind of created their own storybook with all these different characters, but then they've made like paintings and postcards and bookmarks based on all of the characters. It was just so wholesome in there. You can tell that so much effort has gone into the shop and the books and the stories. It was just so heartwarming. I did buy a couple of things from there. I got a bookmark and a couple of postcards. I just thought it was such a beautiful shop. And then we headed over to Minister Gate. I would say this is probably one of my favorite bookshops that we went to. The building is just so old-fashioned that there's just something about it that just felt really cool. One thing I will say about this bookshop though is it's not the most accessible shop. It's got a lot of flaws to it, but it's incredibly narrow. I had a backpack on and even I was kind of like, who the hell is beeping? I'm trying to make a video. So I only had a backpack on and even I was kind of like bumping into stuff. The stairs were super narrow and you know, you're trying to kind of cross each other in the corridors if people are waiting at the bottom of the stairs. It's a great building. So many books, oh my goodness, so many incredible editions as well, so much to look at, but like I said, it is narrow, so just be mindful. Then we went to probably my favorite bookshop, and that was the Little Apple Bookshop. This shop had a lot of books that were signed by authors, but the best thing as well is that they weren't incredibly expensive just because they were signed. I actually ended up picking up Before the Coffee Gets Cold because it was signed by the author, and I'm not someone who typically likes to buy just standard editions of books if I already have one, but because I'm not going to meet the author and it is one of my favorite books, I picked it up because it was only £12, which I thought was so good for a signed book, and I think online they're going for like 25 to 30 pounds, so I couldn't really say no, and I didn't want to get home and then regret it, and well, I couldn't exactly go all the way back to York to pick it up. So and they've also got loads of little knickknacks in there and toys and gadgets, so really wholesome and lovely people that work there as well. Everyone's just so friendly in York, it's so great. Then there was also Janette Ray. We didn't actually get to go inside because it was shut when we got there, but then there was also Blue House. I believe it was like next door or just a couple doors down. If I remember correctly, that one was like a children's bookshop. It had a lot of recommendations for kids, so if you've got children then you might want to have a pop in and have a look because it might be useful. And then those two bookshops will kind of leave you there next to the art gallery, which is where you can do the open bus tour I mentioned earlier in the video if you want to. So yeah, those are all of the bookshops that we wanted to visit. Like I said, a couple of them were closed, but either way, we still went to loads of other ones, so had a really good experience. I appreciate that all of this was probably a lot of information, but either way, I hope it was useful and I hope that you were able to take some tips from this video. York is such a stunning and beautiful place with so much architecture, history and stuff to do, so I really do recommend going if you can. You are going to have a fantastic time. Thank you so much for watching. Honestly, I'm so eternally grateful, and I really hope you found this part of the video useful and you also enjoyed watching the vlog as well. Definitely let me know in the comments if you are going to York anytime soon, or if you have already been, what did you love about visiting? Have a fantabulous rest of your week, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.